This morning, we're actually going to dive into a topic that I feel is really, really important. I feel is something that it's intimidating, right? And it's something yet that we should all be, I don't want to say professionals necessarily at, but we should all learn to manage. We should all be familiar with it and we should be all comfortable with. And my two guests this morning, Michelle Sotka, she is the chair of the accounting department here at Howard Community College, and Adriano Lima e Silva. He's the accounting assistant professor here. We're going to talk about accounting. We're going to talk about the CPA candidate certificate that HCC offers. And we're going to talk about, getting comfortable maybe with what accounting is, getting comfortable with the numbers, getting comfortable with looking at our numbers at home and talking about this is a topic, like I said, that it can be intimidating, that seems that only certain people can do it or should do it, yet I feel that is something that we all should do. And Michelle, that's actually the first question that I have for you. I'd love to get to know you a little bit more about you. I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about who you are, about yourself. But also, there's this saying that goes that, everyone should at least take one basic accounting class in their life. And I want to know if you agree or not with that statement and why. So welcome you both. Very glad to be sharing this space with you this morning. And Michelle, if you can just, give us some light on that.
Sure, Chris. Well, thank you so much for having us. We are excited to be here and grateful, as you mentioned, during this season. But I guess first off, to just tell you a bit about myself, I kind of had a really early on experience with business because I grew up in a family business. I'm the daughter of an immigrant and who, truly, as they say, realized the American dream, started his own business. But I will tell you, it was a lot of work. And but my family unit, my four siblings and my parents and I really, I feel benefited from working together in our family business. We really bonded over it. And so I feel like, when I went off to college, I had a pretty good understanding of what it takes to run a small business and, the sacrifices and just really the positive benefit of it as well. But I really didn't fully understand the discipline of accounting. I saw my dad, he would do his own paperwork and he actually had an accountant that did his taxes and that kind of thing, but I didn't really fully understand it. And when I took my first accounting course, I was a business major, but I wasn't yet an accounting major. I just really loved that principles of accounting course. And I didn't understand that accounting is kind of a system that businesses use to kind of code all the transactions that take place within the business and get them into this system, basically, that allows them to use that information to generate reports and communicate what's going on in the business. So it's a critical piece. And, we often refer to accounting as the language of business. And that's just, again, because of the fact that we have this process of coding transactions and therefore being able to communicate what's going on within the business. So, leaving my family business, going off to college, really taking that first accounting course and knowing that I really like this organization of this system of breaking down everything that happens in the business and coding these transactions, generating reports. When I graduated, I went to Miami of Ohio. I'm from the Midwest, graduated from college and went off to become an auditor, which is an experience I tell my students is a great experience for new accountants because you really get to see a lot of different businesses. I worked for Deloitte and Touche in Cleveland, Ohio, and had a wide array of clients. So got to get in there and see their various businesses. From there, I feel like, this is an opportunity for students to kind of learn a lot and apply accounting, the discipline of accounting, to different businesses. But long story short, I ended up teaching when my family kind of moved around a bit, and I got involved in teaching when we moved out to the Northwest. But to circle back to your question regarding should all students take an accounting course, I do feel strongly that business majors are required to take accounting courses, clearly, and that was a great benefit for me. But non-accounting students or non-business students really might want to consider taking that one fundamental accounting course. I feel like it would benefit them both personally. We're all kind of keeping track of our own personal finances. We all have to prepare tax returns or for our own, personal income. And as well, I think it makes employees kind of better employees if they understand kind of what makes the business profitable. And, as my dad used to say when I was a kid growing up, the business is like a fragile baby. And if you don't take care of that business, it might not be able to continue to exist. So if all the employees have a good, healthy understanding of what it takes for a business to be profitable and to continue to exist, I think that's really just a benefit to the business itself and to the employees that work there to have that potential for longevity with that business.
You mentioned something that early on, right? Through your family experience, you got
Yes.
to just be involved in
Yes.
accounting and all of that. And I always tell my family, I'm like, the biggest partnership, the biggest business that you have is your family, is your household. Like, this is real world practice. This is, you have, depending on how many people you have in your household, this is that big, strong partnership. And accounting, whether you like it or not, or finances, whether you like it or not, is a big part of it. We just don't think of it that way. And I love that you brought that in. I love that you brought the fact that, maybe without real understanding, you were, just involved in that because it was part of your family dynamic, because you guys had this family business. I'd like to expand a little bit more on that, because I think it's important, especially nowadays where, we've been going through this pandemic and we've heard how much it has affected our families. We hear the word inflation, we see, the prices going up of everything, without a real maybe necessarily understanding. We just see the consequences. We don't necessarily, I know that I can't really speak eloquently about the reasons why. I have a very basic understanding, but I want to go back to that idea of having that familiarity since early in your life, and that I don't want to call it confidence, but at least that ease of, working with the numbers and looking at the family numbers and looking at the business, and understanding how that can help, and going back to the family, right? Because I know that our families are hurting right now. So I want you to speak to everybody who's listening and watching about, that idea of looking at your finances, becoming the accounting in your family, and how that can support your family, your household.
Yes, that's such a great point, Chris. And I think, like you said, now kind of more than ever, because we see that prices are escalating and people are nervous and worried about that. So, one of the things that we teach in the Principles of Accounting courses is this concept of budgeting. And, but you really don't have to be an accountant to budget, but having some, basic understanding. And I think, to go back to your question on whether or not folks should take accounting, having that awareness, even if you don't become an expert at it, but just having that awareness of, can I create a monthly budget for my family, right? Can I look at my family's revenues that are coming in the door and those expenses that are going out the door? And I would advocate, what we actually do in accounting is we create a budget, and then after the fact, we compare those actual results to what we thought was going to happen to that budget. And we see, where did we have shortfalls, or where did we have things that were unexpected? So kind of now more than ever that we see all these escalating prices, if folks consider maybe making a monthly budget for their family, and then kind of closing that loop by going back after the fact and seeing, how did we actually pan out? And this is so simple to do now in an Excel spreadsheet. You can plug in, or even on a piece of paper, write down what you expect those expenses to be versus what they actually were. And then you have to say to yourself, where should I be tweaking? What happened that I wasn't expecting? And how can I better prepare for this? Or maybe we have to consider, here we are in this gig economy. Maybe there's some other way to have a revenue stream coming into our family. So, I definitely think this concept of budgeting and then going back and reassessing how we actually fared compared to that expectation, I think that's a really healthy thing for families to do.
Adriana, let's learn a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I saw that you're teaching a course this coming summer 2022, and I want to ask you about that, right? I want to ask you, because your course really talks about global financial awareness. With Michelle, we kind of talked a little bit about family and, like in-house finances and our immediate economy, right? But with you, with the class that you're teaching this summer 2022, you're bringing us to this all other concept of accounting, which is looking at what's happening in the world and I mean, the pandemic really showed us that it is important to pay attention not only to our immediate community, but the world itself, and how what happens, the other side of the world affects what's happening here in our world. So, welcome. Tell us a little bit about you, and tell us a little bit about, the importance of having that global awareness.
Sure, Chris, thank you for having us. Um, Let me start saying that we don't have to major in accounting to be an accountant, right? And I'm an example of that. I am mechanical engineering, and I thought I was going to work with engineering, right? However, I decided to switch my career um, back the day, and I decided to pursue finance. I got an MBA in finance, and I work as a consultant, as an executive for years, and trying to understand really what happened behind the scenes, what happened with the companies, and try to explain a little bit about the results and performance and so on. So I work as a consultant, reading and analyzing financial statements and explaining creditors and investors about the company's performance. And in 2019, I decided to get a master's of accountants, and later on, I got my a CPA degree. And so it's going to be little bit about my history. Even though I love engineering, I'm trying to bring all my knowledge to my classes. And talking about this experience that we're going to provide to our students and in terms of global financial awareness, we are experiencing supply chain constraint, right? And this is pushing inflation up. And most of our goods or service come from overseas. So this program will give our students the opportunity to talk and to learn from companies not United States, right? And ask them what happened with all this supply chain issue and how they are surviving with this pandemic, right? So we're going to bring in really global financial market experience to our students, and not only that, they're going to experience a cultural exchange, right? So for 8 weeks, the students will have this opportunity to talk to CFOs or controllers about the financial statements, ask questions about business and accounting, and they will learn a little bit about how to do business in different countries, and they will be able to expand to many other areas if they want.
And that's great because, again, the pandemic hit us all. It showed us how connected we really, really are. I know we usually hear that word, right? Like, we're all connected, we're all one, we're all the same. But I think the pandemic really brought it home, and it really showed us how connected we are, how anything that happens, in the east affects the west, in the north affects the south. Like, it's really just one world. We're all together in it. Yes, our realities are different and our experiences are different, yet we are so interconnected, and anything that happens anywhere in the world affects everybody else. And that's what we're seeing today, as you just said, that inflation, and how, not being able to ship from one country to the other, how that affected, and how's that affecting our prices and here our economy right here at home. So having that understanding, gaining that understanding, and being able to maybe come up with strategies, or I don't know, it's just to me that's fascinating. It just takes and reminds me of how small we really are, and yet how powerful, our choices and what we can do at home really can be, not just for ourselves but for everybody in the world. And to hear that accounting is part of that, it's changing my personal lens, right? Because I saw personally economy and accounting, I've always seen it as kind of like far away. Money and I have never had the best of relationships. I blame a lot of the problems in the world to money. Like, it's always been kind of like my idea, but it's really that misunderstanding and that not knowing how to use money that causes the problem, not money itself. And that's another whole conversation that we can have, another hour of conversation that we can have another day. But I want to dive into maybe to actually understand that and challenge that idea. Maybe other people are feeling the same way. Let's talk about, the goal and the mission of the program here at HCC with accounting, right? And the importance and how, how it can help us actually better that relationship with money and how that can actually better the world for everybody.
Yeah, so the focus here is to provide the most updated information to our students, right? So we are, again, we know what's going on in the world. We know what's going on in our career, and we need to focus on the best update information and to bring the new standard rules because those rules are going to change time to time, right? So we are adding more technology. We are adding new areas. Computer science, we're partnering with other departments, the cybersecurity, it's playing a big role in our career, right? So our goal is to provide them enough information and they can make the best decision, right? And that could be the best path that we could reach, right?
Yeah, just to add on a little bit to that, what Adriano said too, Chris, is, we're very focused on quality instruction. We have all CPAs teaching all of our accounting courses. And so we want to make sure that our students are prepared to go to the next step. Some are going straight to career. Some are going to transfer to a four-year institution. Some are going to sit for the CPA exam. And so no matter, which kind of path that they're on, we want to make sure that they're adequately prepared. And some are business majors that are going on into, not an accounting major, but just another business major. And we want to make sure that they're well equipped. And just to tag on to something Adriana was describing, the AICPA, which is the body that creates the CPA exam and provides us with the industry with a lot of resources and guidance, they are working on a project that they call the CPA Evolution. And it's going to be rolled out to potential CPAs in January of 2024. So the CPA exam is changing to include those things that Adriano just mentioned. Our students need to be current with technology. So we've implemented data analytics projects in all of our principles of accounting courses. We're really making sure that our students are adequately prepared in that area. And but Adriano and the team, all of us are working on a project right now where we're making sure that all of our accounting courses align with the detailed objectives for this CPA evolution that's going to be rolled out for the 2024 CPA exam. So again, I would just say quality combined with adequately preparing the student with the required technology needs that they need to be successful.
And really staying at the top and, what's even coming up. I mean, we're talking about 2024. We're not talking about, this coming summer or anything like that.
Yes.
We're really looking ahead and seeing how the industry is changing. I want to talk about that because, Adriana mentioned his background is not accounting. He also said anybody can be an accountant. And Michelle, you kind of, mentioned that as well in your conversation in your own way. You said, I wasn't an accounting major. I was really going for business. So with that in mind, I mean, who should consider joining, right? Who should consider taking an accounting course? Is there a specific, I don't know, like a profile that we're looking for? Are there specific requirements or, if somebody's considering being a doctor, maybe they should minor on accounting. I mean, help us really broaden that idea, because I think that usually we choose our careers based on very specific small ideas or very clear paths that we want to follow. And maybe somebody's saying, but it sounds like I could actually be this and be many other things as well. So help us really find that idea of who an accountant is and who should study to become an accountant.
Yeah, I'll start that. And Adriana, if you want to add anything. First off, we are super fortunate to have Adriano in our faculty. His background in mechanical and structural engineering is huge. I mean, his technology understanding, that base level that he brings, and now he's enhanced with kind of getting specific into the accounting education, is a huge asset for our program. But in our CPA track, and Adriano is actually our CPA coordinator, but in the CPA track, we see students with backgrounds in every field. And quite frankly, because every field needs accountants, whatever field, whatever background you have brings an edge or an advantage to you and your perspective when you go into accounting. But I think, I don't know if this is the point where we want to elaborate on our programs, but we have a CPA certificate program. Again, Adriano is our coordinator, and it brings in any background. An undergraduate in any area is eligible to sit for the CPA exam if they take the courses that are included in our certificate. And we've had, biology majors and math majors and theater majors and English majors. As well, we've had business majors come in and complete the CPA candidacy requirements. I will say it's a little easier for a business major because they have a few less requirements to complete. But I think that, like you mentioned with the doctor or the lawyer or somebody who wants to go into an accounting profession or new career, take a career change, that background brings that perspective that is advantageous. Again, one of my most successful former students was a biology undergrad, thought he wanted to go on to med school, and then decided, he met with some folks in a career fair that were from one of the big 4 accounting firms, and they talked to him and said, we think you'd be a great candidate. And he got hooked up with our program, and now he's doing wonderful things at one of the big 4 accounting firms.
Yeah, and I'm just going to add that sometimes we have students coming to our program and to become an accountant, to become a CPA, or just to learn about this field, because maybe you're going to run your own business, right? And you want to know what's going on with your business. You don't want to be just part of your business, right? So you want to really know and understand everything else. I mean, you go from taxes, auditing. I mean, if you're looking for an investor, if you need to raise money, right? Because you need to run your business. You want to buy equipment. So everything that happens inside your company, you want to be part of that, right? You want to know what's going on. So we see all kinds of students, all kinds of professionals coming to our program.
Let's talk about the job market. Let's talk about the job opportunities out there. Maybe somebody who, let's say somebody has, like you just said, an interest in medicine, or somebody has an interest in the law, right? Yet their passion really is with the numbers, right? Let's talk about that job market, because it really sounds like you can still be involved in, your areas of interest, but you can be the person who's actually taking care of the numbers in that area. So let's talk a little bit about that and expand that idea so that people can really understand the function, the job of an accountant, and why we're mentioning every other career out there when we're mentioning an accountant.
Well, I'll just give you some numbers. According to the US Bureau of Labor, we have 1.4 million accountants in the United States, right? However, only 50% have a CPA degree, right? So we still have, room. We can grow the CPA, we can grow the accountants, right? And also, the certificate that we have give them an opportunity to work in any field, not having a CPA, right? So at least we know that the student went through this path. So we need accountants, right? So the projection is that the accountant field will grow 4% for the next years. So that's something that we are always looking for, how we're going to grow in Korea, how we're going to expand our areas, and especially in different fields that not the traditional accounting, but accountants that work with cybersecurity, accountants that work with fraud, accountants that work with computer science, coding, and bringing new technology that we didn't know that will ever exist, like blockchain, machine learning. So all these kind of fields that we thought that we were not going to be involved, now we have to be involved because the companies are using and we are running the financial statements, right? So we need to make sure with all technology that are bringing to our field, we are aware of, right? At least we know how to operate, we know how it works, right?
Yeah, I just to add to that, I agree with what Adriano said, and the Bureau of Labor Statistics really has a projection for growth in the area of the accounting industry. I read a stat that they anticipate 62,000 new jobs opening in the next 5-year window in the area of accounting, and the positions themselves are transforming. So a lot more technology is being incorporated into the job of being an accountant. And so we're looking for, candidates that are very well versed in not only accounting and business, but also that have a good, solid information technology understanding. And again, our programs, our courses are being modified to reflect that. But in addition to that, although this isn't like a neat and tidy published statistic, we partner with the Maryland Board of Public Accountancy, who gives the CPA exam here in the state of Maryland. And we also partner with the Maryland Association of CPAs, a group that a lot of Maryland CPAs belong to provide resources and the continuing education that our profession demands. And when we talk to our partners in these organizations, they tell us they're looking for a pipeline of students. They're looking for a pipeline of candidates to come in and sit for the CPA exam because they've actually seen a dip in the numbers coming in, and they have openings. So even if and that extrapolates across the United States, but if we look here locally in Maryland, we know that there is a need. There's a need for accountants, as Adriano mentioned, that don't have their CPA, 1.4 million, positions with folks that don't have a CPA, but then add to that, double that with those that do need to have a CPA. So depending on what the students' goals are, what they're looking to achieve, oftentimes, we have 3 accounting programs here at HCC. We have the bookkeeping certificate, which is an 18 credit, and get right into a career at that level. But then maybe they want to continue on and work on their accounting AA, right? The AA folks, our second accounting program, they could either go right into a career as well in accounting as an accountant, or they might decide they want to go on to a 4-year school and get that 4-year degree. They could have the job and they could be working on the 4-year degree. So those kind of dovetail. And then kind of the highest level that we offer is the CPA certificate for those students that do want to sit for the CPA exam. And, so you can have a progression where you're starting out at a lower level and then you're looking to attain these certifications along the way. And it all adds to your career path and your potential for advancement and ultimately greater success. But again, what we hear from our partners who are, on the ground, working with potential new CPAs, they tell us all the time that, they're looking for more candidates. Their numbers aren't as high as they need them to be for those folks that are graduating in these programs.
Let's try to paint a picture here, of what an accountant's day look like, right? If we could just get a clear idea for those who are listening, maybe somebody has considered this in their life and they're like, oh no, I'm going to be working with numbers all day. I'm going to be adding and subtracting all day. That doesn't sound like fun. And that's why I don't want to do this, right? Let's maybe help them get that clear idea. Let's debunk some of those myths, right? Because I think that that's what we tend to do many times is like, oh, I have a little bit of interest with that. But then I remember that math class that I hated so much when I was in 5th grade. And I'm like, I'm not going to go this route because it's going to be like living in that classroom for the rest of my life. So let's really give a good picture of what an accountant does on a regular basis, what a day could look like, what are some of the things that they could be working on a regular basis.
It's interesting that you said about math, and we really don't use a lot of math. We don't crunch a lot of numbers, but basically what the accountant will do is record the transaction, right? So when you ask what is the day life, let's say, we have so many areas in a company, from sales to revenues, receivables, payables. So let's say you work with sales, right? You want to know how much you are selling, and do you have discount? Do you have returns? So how going to record those transactions? And then you have the receivables, right? You have to collect these sales. You have to collect cash, right? What if you want to invest your money? company sometimes will invest money, right, in the stock market or in the different companies, right? You can have an accounts payable where you have to pay your bills. We know every day, we know every month we pay bills, so that the companies do the same thing. So, right, you wanna make sure you have a cash flows. You want to make sure it's like blood that's pumping, and then company is growing, and that's how it's a beauty of the accountant. So we can work with many areas and not specifically with numbers, but you want to make sure everything is being recorded in time. You know what I mean? So it's a great area to work.
Yeah, I would also add to that, there are so many different positions within the accounting industry. And so, when you think about a typical day, if you're an accounting clerk, you might be spending a little bit more time at your desk, coding information into a computer, but there's always going to be interaction with people, because we don't want to just put in numbers. Like, those numbers have meaning. And so the only way to confirm that the information that we're putting into the system is true and accurate is to actually have those kinds of conversations, right? And make sure that we're fully understanding the nature of a particular transaction and coding those things in. So, you'll have somebody at kind of maybe the clerk level that's maybe doing a little bit more on the kind of data entry side, but there's certainly going to be interaction. And then that person is going to have a manager that does more kind of a review. So there's this tiered process of review that takes place. But there's a lot of, I would say it's a mix of time spent on the computer, time spent reviewing reports, but also interacting with people, because, the old saying, garbage in, garbage out. If we're not putting the proper information into the system, then that reporting, which is so integral to what we do as accountants, is we want to communicate results so that managers can take a look at those results and make decisions, so that folks outside of the company, creditors and investors, can take a look at those financial reports that we generate, and they can make decisions on how they want to allocate capital. So our highest need is to make sure that we're generating information that's true and accurate and complete. It's all in there. We're not omitting anything. And so by doing that, by having these layers, it's cool too, because it gives a person in an accounting career that chance for progression to have a variety of experience. So if you're the kind of person who says, I'm out, I don't want to be coding at a computer, know that even if that's how you got your start at that entry level, there's a huge, path for you for progression and so many layers of kind of professional development and certification along the way. And as you grow and you move up and you have kind of more of maybe a higher level view, you'll be doing more of the reviewing, and you'll be doing more of maybe the supervision of folks that are doing some of that data entry into the computer. But again, it all comes down to, we want to make sure that we have a process and a system in place that's generating the most accurate possible information, because people are relying on that information. And again, one of the things that we say in the accounting industry is, what we provide to the economy is communicating the most accurate information possible, because folks are depending on that. So when you look at, the United States is governed by GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles. When you look at these rules that are in place, that the FASB has put in place for us, it's just to make sure that information that's getting out there is accurate and fair and complete, so that when people are relying on it, both those that are external to the company and those that are internal, they're making good decisions as a result of the information that they're viewing.
Information is power, for sure. So it's important to have, good accountants looking at that information, bringing that good information to us, so then we can make strong decisions that can move us forward. We've talked about CPA, and we've mentioned it a few times, and we kind of talked about it being kind of like that highest level. Let's define what, having that CPA credential means, right? And how that's different from an accountant. So let's start with that, right? What is the difference between having that CPA credential and not having it and just being an accountant?
In order to attain that CPA credential, there's a 4-part exam that's administered by the State Board of Accountancy. So here in Maryland, we have the Maryland Board of Public Accountancy, and it's a process. And in order to be eligible to sit, there's a required listing of courses, which are contained in our CPA certificate, one of our 3 programs. And so it's certainly a more rigorous path. And again, a lot of folks in this industry will start maybe at a lower level on that path and then eventually kind of get to this point. But the CPA has typically that kind of higher level responsibility, that review that we were talking about, the generation of the entry of the transactions and the generation of the financial statements, that kind of stuff likely happens with an accountant, but likely that financial statement level is being reviewed by a CPA. Audits are being conducted by CPAs, tax work is being completed by CPAs, and quite frankly, for all publicly traded companies, they're required to have an audit by a CPA firm. So that's actually how I started in the accounting industry. When I worked for a public accounting firm, I went out and I, did these audits of publicly traded companies because that's a requirement, and with good reason, because we want to make sure that the information that's being communicated by those public companies is honest and true and accurate and complete. And so that when folks like all of us, quite frankly, when we go to invest in a public company, we can have assurance that those numbers have been reviewed and are free from what we call material error. There's not a material issue. And so I would say, having the CPA, it gives that candidate, that worker, a bit more leverage. It allows for more advancement. Not required, by any stretch of the imagination. Folks can complete their whole career as an accountant without the CPA, but the CPA does give them, just a bit more credibility and a bit more opportunities, open doors, typically a higher pay scale. So I certainly advocate for my students to consider that along their path.
And I'm just going to add that like summary. So the accountant is the person that will record the transactions, will work with the company, work with the budget, communicate internal results, and follow the rules, make sure everything it's going well. And the CPA will give the attestations, right? Will give opinion, right? The CPAs basically will give opinions about the financials.
Yes.
They have fiduciary duties. So
yes,
it's a really bit higher than accountants.
Yes. Yeah. And that's actually an excellent point, Adriano. I should have mentioned for the CPA candidates, they have to pass the 4-part exam. And then there's an ethics exam, and there's 2,000 hours of work required under a CPA just to become certified. And then once a CPA is certified, they're required to maintain a level of professional development each year. We call that CPE, the continuing professional development, professional education. And they're required to have 40 hours of that each year just to stay current on those things that are, changing and going on in the industry. So while it's certainly advisable that accountants stay abreast of those things as well, there's a requirement on the CPA, and they have to renew their license. Each state is a bit different, but in the state of Maryland, they're renewing every 2 years their license, and they're documenting that they've attended that continuing education, that they've met the mark on those requirements. So I think, the level of, I guess I just go back to the word credibility. The level of credibility that the CPA has is maybe just a bit higher than that of the accountant.
So let's talk a little bit about the program here at HCC, because maybe somebody's listening and this is kind of like a twofold question, because we've said that in order to be an accountant or in order to be a CPA, you don't have to necessarily start off being an accountant, right? So I want to talk about that. And then I also want to talk about how HCC, the program that we offer here at HCC, is unique and how it supports, right, anyone who is considering becoming a CPA.
First of all, Chris, all our instructors have a CPA, and they all come from different background. Some from the private sector, some from the government, some from non-for-profit. So we have a really broad experience that will take place and bring to our students. So we are very unique because of that. And we bring a lot of update information. So we are always, as Michelle mentioned before, we have to update ourselves. We have to go through professional development, and we have to understand what's going on, how we'll bring this new technology and information to our students. So we are all really updated, right? And then following the new curriculum, following, everything that's actually has to be done. So this makes us really unique. And I want to mention that we have our standalone data analytics course that will bring students more information.
I just to add on to what Adriano said, I think that our program is unique for the CPA track, the CPA certificate program, in that, again, as you mentioned, folks come in from various backgrounds. The requirement is basically that they have a 4-year degree in any area, and basically a desire, an eagerness to learn about accounting. Some of the topics are complex, so we need somebody to come in with a strong work ethic, ready to rock and roll with these courses, and really prepare themselves to sit for the CPA exam. The other kind of unique aspect of our program is because these folks come in with these various backgrounds, when they meet with Adriano or myself, and primarily Adriano meets with the CPA students, we look at what they have completed at this point, and we tailor specifically that CPA certificate. So the state board requires that all CPA candidates have a 4-year degree in anything, right? And then they're required to have 27 credits of accounting, 3 credits of ethics, and 21 credits of business, okay? So that's the requirement to sit. Some students come in, and if they have a business undergrad, they've already met a lot of the business requirements. Some students come in, even if they have a biology undergrad, they've met some of the requirements under the business area, or maybe the ethics or what have you, or maybe they took an accounting course along the way. So we actually tailor, and this makes us unique. We meet with those students individually. We have a one-on-one advising session with those students, and we tailor our certificate program, and we see what they've already completed, and then we make a plan with them for how they're going to go about completing those courses that remain, and giving them, the best opportunity to become prepared to sit for the CPA exam and to be successful on that exam. So I think that's part of our uniqueness, is just our working with those students one-on-one and really tailoring the program to what their needs are.
So let's really open that up a little bit more. Let's communications major here, right? I can maybe think of 1 or 2 classes that I think may qualify for that, right? So if I come in and sit down with you guys and I'm like, I want to become a CPA, I'm going to start my own business, or my husband, who's actually a realtor, I want to start supporting him and his business, and I feel that this is the right way to do it. If I came and sat down with you guys, there's a couple of questions that come to my mind. Is like, do I need to come in at the beginning of the spring, summer, fall semester, or is this an ongoing program that I can just come in and talk to you about at any time? And then the other thing is, once you look at everything that I bring, and my transcripts and everything else, all that information I bring, is there a time frame that I'm looking at? Is there, as we're putting this program together for me based on my experience and my needs, let's really paint that picture, and what can people expect when they come and sit and talk to Adriana about becoming a CPA?
Sure. And we see this type of questions every day. We have students have never been in a business. Some students in a business, some students in an accounting, right? So I really tailor. I try to help them schedule their classes to meet the requirements that we need, and not over study, but at least make sure they have the minimum degrees, the minimum credits, right? So I would sit with all students and with my spreadsheet, and then we go over every single class that the students have taken, and I will waiver some classes and sometimes, and I would advise them to take other classes that I know they will need. So I see that sometimes, I'm just going to give you an example. We have students that have met all requirements, but they have never taken government accounting, right? So sometimes I would advise the students to take this class because I know this is going to be important for the exam. So the exam will ask them at least 15 to 20% of the questions will be about the government accounting. So if even though if you don't need that class, you might want to take that class. So for every single student, some students will come without any business classes. So it's gonna take longer, but I want to make sure the student is gonna hit all single credit that it needs. So it's a really 101, and I try to be really proactive and make sure they understand and they want to succeed.
That's exactly right. And I would just say too that, we offer courses that are required in the CPA certificate year round. So, we have our accounting courses, our business courses, the ethics, and within that business requirement, it's a 21 credits of business. You as a communications undergrad, you likely will have already filled some of those courses under the 21 credits of business, because there's a business communication course required that, depending on, I'm sure there's a course that you took that's, similar to that. A statistics course is required. So there's certain things in there that when we look at the transcripts and we view all the transcripts that the student has, and we match them up with what, the requirements are. And again, we have a really strong relationship with our State Board of Accountancy. So we know what they are looking for to transfer in for these required credits. So I would just, reiterate that all year round, you can be taking something that meets those requirements, and we're going to tailor it based on, what you've done before. And more likely than not, there's going to be some of those requirements that you've already met. One other thing I just realized I forgot to mention. So in addition to the 27 credits of accounting, the 21 credits of business, the 3 credits of business ethics, CPAs are required to have a total of 150 credits. And so as Adriana was mentioning, sometimes we have a student that comes in and they already have an undergrad in accounting, or maybe they have an undergrad in finance. So they've already met a great deal of those numbers I just mentioned of credits, but they still haven't gotten to the 150. Likely what we're going to do in that case, as Adriano mentioned, is we're going to say, hey, if you've met the business and accounting, we have this stellar information technology program. We've got cybersecurity. We've got, great options in the computer science area that are a perfect match with the new CPA evolution. And so because we have this wealth of depth of those types of classes, technology related courses already in existence at HCC, we kind of tap into that. And that's part of that process of tailoring the program specifically to the needs of the individual student.
Now, you mentioned that there's classes available year round. So if somebody's listening and watching this conversation today and they're interested and they're like, I want to become CPA, can they contact you guys today? Do they need to wait until registration opens up for the next semester? Help us really understand, does the program run in semesters? Does it run in different time frames?
It does run in semesters. So if someone were to meet with us now, we would take a look at what their, requirements are. If they're interested in taking winter, which is very condensed, and so it is challenging from a time commitment standpoint. If they're interested in taking in winter, we would look at the courses that are available this winter and match them up with what their needs are. But right now, if someone were to meet with us, this is actually perfect timing, because registration is open for winter and spring. So we could get them enrolled for winter and spring, and also develop their plan for summer and fall. And I think a question you asked earlier is, how long does it take to get through the program? And it really depends on, how much time does a student have to commit? We have students that say, hey, I'm doing this, I have to fit this in with the rest of my life, right? And I'm going to do one class at a time as long as it takes me to get through it. And that's great. And they do it and they accomplish it over time, and it works for them. Some students say, I want to take 2 classes, or some say, I want to be a full-time student. I want to knock this out, right? And so it really just depends on the needs of the students. And that's kind of what we're here for, is to listen to them, listen to what their needs are, and tailor their plan to meet exactly what their circumstances are, what their needs are.
So let's give everybody, that information. Let's give everybody, tell them where they can come to connect with you guys, to get all the details, all the information, and maybe get that process started. I mean, if this is something that you're considering, I encourage you to just come and have that conversation, right? Just come and sit down and get that clear picture for you, because Michelle just said, depending on what your goals are, what you can and cannot do, how many classes you can take, and what you're bringing with you, it may not be as long as you think, or maybe it's going to take a little more time. Well, why not have that conversation? Why not get that clarity, that clear picture, and then make that decision? We said it, we said it earlier. We said information is power, and we want to put that information straightforward out there for you to have in a clear picture, and then make that good decision that's right for you. So let's tell everybody, if there's a phone number, if there's an email, if there's a website, anything and anywhere and everywhere that people can get in touch with you guys and connect with you guys to ask these questions. Where's the best place to find you?
Well, HCC has a great website, so I would start off by going to hcc.com and edu, and there is a search place that you can type the CPA certificate or accounting, and it's gonna bring you a great page with information that you need, with phones and contact information. In addition, there is a form that you can fill out and ask really questions. I will receive every single question about the CPA, and then I will make sure I'm going to answer you. I'm going to and take any questions. Sometimes, and in most of the cases, I am available for a Zoom meeting. So because I like this personal, more personal meeting type of style, not as phony sometimes. And I feel that the students appreciate, because they really want to see somebody, especially now that we have all restrictions. So I feel like just seeing the students, seeing the prospective student, basically, it makes them more comfortable, and I'll take all questions about the program.
Yes. So as Adriano mentioned, if you go to the HCC website at howardcc.edu and type in CPA certificate or accounting, it's going to bring you to our program. And so you can review all the details there of the courses that are required. You could drill down on the courses and have a description of the course. And as Adriano mentioned, a little pop-up will come up. It says request for information form. And if you insert your information into the request for information, it'll shoot that directly over to Adriano. But you could always also email us directly. You could, and I think you could probably locate our email addresses by going through our webpage. But I don't know if it's something you can grab off this podcast. Mine is msotka, MSOTKA at howardcc.edu. And I'd love to hear from anyone who's interested, and love to have an opportunity to meet with you. And Adriano, if you want to give yours as well.
Yes, and mine is A Lima E Silva, ALIMAESILVA at howardcc.edu. And I'm just going to mention that sometimes, even before they apply, I will sometimes receive their transcript. So I work with the students before the application, and then I try to give them the best path, best information available, and they will have the best, they can make the best decision.
Fantastic. I'll make sure to put in the comments, both the emails, so you guys can get in touch with Adriano and with Michelle and ask your questions and maybe get started. You guys raised a good point, and Adriano, you said, I can meet with people via Zoom. Are classes happening in person right now? Are they mostly online? Because I'm thinking BC Lives, this is for people who are already professionals. How flexible is the program when it comes to scheduling? How flexible are the classes? And, when we're thinking about that time commitment, right? Do we need to come to take the classes in person, or can we take them fully online?
We are offering online classes, hybrid classes, and hopefully soon we're going to have a personal class. But I have students from everywhere, from Japan, from Latin America, and they are taking advantage of this time to have online classes with us. So we pretend to keep doing these classes, because I think we could reach more students overseas, and even in the United States. I have students from California, so it's more convenient now to have online classes. But we do offer hybrid classes, which the students appreciate as well, because they are in contact with us, and they sometimes they they are not too shy and to ask questions. So personal would be much better for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we have, different ways to continue and advance your career to become a CPA. I know that, as I look for in my career, the next steps, master's degree and this and that and the other, that's an important question. That's a really important question that comes to my mind first, because I have kids, I have my career, I have a job, I have all of these other responsibilities. But we want to continue advancing. We want to continue moving forward. And HCC understands that. And that's why we're offering these different options to everybody out there who might be considering, taking the CPA certificate classes. So we only have about 2 minutes left here in our conversation. And I just really want to close our conversation today, going back to that idea of, getting comfortable with accounting and, our family. And we talked about inflation. We talked about, looking at the numbers, how prices are rising. The holiday season is here. It's usually a time of spending. It's really important. It's just really, really important. I think, and it's more apparent now than ever, I feel, how important it is to just be good accountants at home, right? And to be comfortable with their numbers at home. So I want to hear from each one of you guys. We can start with Adriana and then go to Michelle. If you could give us just one piece of advice that we could just keep with us as we go into the holiday season, as we're looking into the new year, right? Moving forward, what would that piece of advice be? What would be one thing that you guys want all of us to keep in mind as we continue to move forward in this economy?
Sure. I was going to say, don't spend more than you earn, right? Have your budget, take care of your debt, try to reduce as much as possible in a level that you can breathe, right? So really don't have a lot of debt, and try to save some money for the rainy day. This is very important because we never know when some new crisis is going to happen again. So try to save some money.
And right along those same lines, I would say I would go back to that monthly budget and making sure that you're aware of what you anticipated spending versus what you actually spent. And so I think in that vein, if there's one piece of advice, I would say to make sure that your spending is kind of to be a conservative accountant, a little bit more on the conservative side. I would say beware of the kind of impulse buy. Really think through, especially on a larger purchase, if this is the right timing, if you've got the right price, or in an environment of inflation, really thinking through if this is something that you really need, if it's more of an impulse, but just kind of making wise decisions as far as purchasing and expenses.
Just really thinking about our decisions, about our expenses. I think that's the challenge that we are taking from this conversation today. And then if this is something that you want to take into your career, come to HCC. You can start your accounting career. There's 3 tracks that you can follow here at HCC. I'll put the information of, our accounting program on the comments here on Facebook, so you can check it out for yourself. I'll put the email addresses for Michelle and Adriana, so you can ask your questions and see if this is a career that you want to maybe switch into, maybe start, this might be something that you're passionate about, and this might be the right time to just go ahead and do it. Adriana, Michelle, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate our time and our conversation today. If there's anything else that you guys want to mention before we wrap our conversation up, this would be the time. If there's something that I forgot to ask, or that you guys are like, oh, she never asked me this question, we need to make sure that we hit this before we close our conversation. This is your opportunity. Going once, going twice.
Well, open door policy. Just come and talk to us.
That's right. We'd love to meet you and hear from you. So come and chat with us, and we'll see if it's a good fit for you.
Perfect. So come to HCC, just come have that conversation. See if this is the right opportunity. If you don't know where to go, Michelle just said it, just come and let's have that conversation. See if this is the right path for you. And if not, again, I love what you said. And I keep going back to that. You guys want to have all the information, put it in orderly manner, put it back out there so that it's understandable, easy to follow, and then so we can make right decisions. So Thank you, everybody, for listening, for watching. Share this information with your friends, with your family. Howard Community College is here to help you further your career. If you want to become a CPA, we are the right place to do it. If you want to become an accountant, we can help you with that as well. So have a beautiful Monday. Enjoy the rest of your day. And until next time, I am Cris Oviedo.